Taoiseach, time is pretty much up for this government. When Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael's alliance started, you were the civil war parties. Now it seems you're more like the phony war parties. For weeks there's been this kind of sniping in the media, not about policy, because it doesn't seem like there's much policy differences between you, but about personalities. That is what political debate has been reduced to. Petty insults and desperate jostling for positions just in advance of an election. It's a fairly ridiculous end to what has been a disastrous government for so many people. Because there are hundreds and thousands of people out there who've lost hope in a better future here, who are utterly disconnected from the success story that this government is trying to spin. Instead, you should be talking about the 500,000 adults living in their childhood bedrooms, how to address that. How do you think they feel, for example, when they hear the Taoiseach say, we've turned a corner on housing? Because they don't see a corner, they see a dead end. Their ability to build a life and put down roots in their communities destroyed by disastrous housing policies. Average house price increases of €85,000 in just 4 years is not a success. For individuals and families desperate to own their own homes, it is a betrayal. Taoiseach, disabled people have also been let down. When this government took office, you said disability was a priority. When you became Taoiseach, you even set up a new cabinet subcommittee to focus on this issue. What has it achieved? Nothing. Services are worse than they were when this government took office. People no longer even have any kind of expectation that they'll get the critical supports that they need. They've learned by experience that the only things they're guaranteed from the state are waiting lists and excuses. But you somehow still claim disability was a priority for this government. This is why the Social Democrats are making a full ministry for disability a deal breaker in any programme for government talks. Because we need the political weight of a ministry, the political will that has so blatantly been missing for so long. Until that happens, I don't believe that anything will change. Taoiseach, I'm sure that during this election campaign you'll insist that your plans in housing and disability and a whole range of other areas are working, or that somehow those plans will start working. That all you need is a bit more time, a few more years, and we'll begin to see the results. But we have been listening to the same lines from Fine Gael for nearly 14 years. Fine Gael have been in office for almost my entire adult life, and you've been a minister for most of that time. You've had more than enough time and more than enough money to address these issues, and you haven't. Why should anybody believe that Fine Gael will solve the crises facing the country when it is Fine Gael policy that has led us to them?
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach, please.
A colleague, but I don't think there's that big a difference between our ages. I'm not quite sure how I'm not sure how I've been a government minister almost all your adult life, but leave that aside. And this government, you'd like to portray our record in a certain way. That's fine, that's your job, and I look forward to debating that on the campaign trail. But this is a government that steered the country through COVID, steered the country through the biggest inflationary crisis, has created jobs for people, has been able to give people back some of their own money, including additional child benefit payments as recently as this week, and has been able to make a range of measures that have made children's lives and parents' lives better, including the rollout of free school books and hot school meals. And now at a time when the risk of a transatlantic trade shock is rising, we have actually managed to set aside resources to make sure that my children never have to live through the austerity that our generation did. So I'm proud of much of the progress that we made. And also, when it comes to moving people out of their childhood bedroom, there's 50,000 people who have been able to avail of the Help to Buy scheme, a scheme that I don't think you support and that you'd pull the rug from under first-time buyers. You asked a very direct question. What difference has it made since I decided to chair the Cabinet Committee on Disability? Allow me to tell you 4 things. Firstly, we've ratified the optional protocol on the UN Convention, something that I know you feel strongly about. We got it done. Secondly, we've managed to adopt a proposal from the Labour Party in relation to assessments of needs and utilising private capacity to make sure more than 1,000 additional children got assessments of needs that wouldn't have got them otherwise this summer. That happened. They're real children, and those benefits have happened as a result of our work together. Thirdly, we've managed to start the process of putting therapists back in special schools. That work is underway. It's making a real difference. Not saying to a parent of a child with special needs you have to go from the school to a health waiting list, but actually putting the therapists in the schools, and we will continue to roll that out. And fourthly, under that Cabinet Committee on Disability, we've worked across government departments to expand the number of training places in Irish universities to make sure we train enough people to work in speech and language therapy, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, because no matter who's in government or what you call the department, you need more people to be able to work in this area. Let me say this though, I think your suggestion in relation to a dedicated standalone Minister for Disability has merit. The only counterpoint I'd make is I suppose that work somewhat started this time with Minister O'Gorman, and obviously then we had a migration crisis and the likes as well, in terms of the breadth of issues that department is now dealing with. But I think the Social Democrats' suggestion in relation to a standalone Minister for Disability is a constructive, sensible one. But what I would like to see is how we'd actually make that department then work to cut through the silos and deliver for people with disabilities.
Holly Cairns.
Taoiseach, the thing that I think is difficult for me to believe, or that I don't really buy, or that, to be honest, I think isn't really credible, is that somebody who was the Minister for Health with responsibility for disability, when nothing improved, when things got worse, who comes in as Taoiseach and sets up a cabinet subcommittee, when we've already had loads of committees and loads of reports, we know all the things that we need to do, and then when you're pointing at things that have happened, you say, oh, well, now we're offering more private solutions rather than investing in the public services we need to actually address disability services. Without even acknowledging that, I think it's brazen to claim that somehow Fine Gael or you is going to be the solution to these issues, without acknowledging that things have gotten worse, that people can't actually access special education, that people are travelling potentially 2.5 hours and not being able to go to school at all. The threadbare services are kind of, it seems like you think there's some kind of a given, when actually Ireland is a rich country that should be able to provide these services. And Fine Gael have had a really long time to try and address that, and you haven't even acknowledged that. So I just hope that people see through the fact that this is a tried, tested and failed government on this issue and on housing, and that you can have all of the new energy in the world, but without any new ideas, nothing's going to change. So I'd say to people at home, because I think we're all hearing at the doors, some people feel despondent, like there is no other choice. This election is about choices, and we can choose differently, to choose to vote for parties that will invest in public services, not splash the cash around in a giveaway budget, to try and buy an election, to invest in services like these. And I hope people will use their choice.
I hope you tell those people on the doors which of the splashing of the cash payments you'd like to cancel. Because I invited you the last time to email me on this and you haven't. No, please, you don't need to heckle now. You don't need to heckle. You could listen, and I listened to you, because I presume when you talk about splashing the cash, I presume you're in favour of the double child benefit payment. I presume you wouldn't begrudge somebody the additional old age pension this month and again before Christmas. I presume you wouldn't be stopping the fuel allowance payments or the lump sum payments for carers or people with a disability or the working family payment. So when you talk about splashing the cash, I talk about giving people back a bit of their own money to help them, because this country's economy is run well. And I look forward to having a debate, but you don't need to lecture me. I know my lived experience. I know exactly what it's like to have to fight every single day for a service. I know exactly what it's like to watch my mother have to get in a car and drive 2 hours to get my brother to a school. I don't need a lecture from you of what the lived experience is like. But I also don't need to suggest that any one human being can fix this. We've got to work together in relation to this. And I stood up and I said, you have a good idea in relation to disability. And I said I'd work with you on that. The disappointing thing is all you wanted to do was slag me off.
Thank you very much.